happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict the future, it builds it, one innovative solution at a time. Ready to be part of something bigger? Ready to shape the future instead of just reacting to it? It starts with our free webinar on Strategic Foresighting, hosted by Shui Agbida, the Leadership Growth Enabler and Learning and Development Specialist. Join us on Saturday, January 13, 2024, at 6 p.m. Attendance is free, but registration is compulsory. Start your 2024 on the right path. In a world that's changing faster than ever, each day brings new challenges, innovations, and global transformations. As we grapple with the exponential pace of change, the gap widens between what's happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict the future, it builds it, one innovative solution at a time. Ready to be part of something bigger? Ready to shape the future instead of just reacting to it? It starts with our free webinar on Strategic Foresighting, hosted by Shui Agbida, the Leadership Growth Enabler and Learning and Development Specialist. Join us on Saturday, January 13, 2024, at 6 p.m. Attendance is free, but registration is compulsory. Start your 2024 on the right path. In a world that's changing faster than ever, each day brings new challenges, innovations, and global transformations. As we grapple with the exponential pace of change, the gap widens between what's happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict the future, it builds it, one innovative solution at a time. Ready to be part of something bigger? Ready to shape the future instead of just reacting to it? It starts with our free webinar on Strategic Foresighting, hosted by Shui Agbida, the Leadership Growth Enabler and Learning and Development Specialist. Join us on Saturday, January 13, 2024, at 6 p.m. Attendance is free, but registration is compulsory. Start your 2024 on the right path. In a world that's changing faster than ever, each day brings new challenges, innovations, and global transformations. As we grapple with the exponential pace of change, the gap widens between what's happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict the future, it builds it, one innovative solution at a time. Ready to be part of something bigger? Ready to shape the future instead of just reacting to it? It starts with our free webinar on Strategic Foresighting, hosted by Shui Agbida, the Leadership Growth Enabler and Learning and Development Specialist. Join us on Saturday, January 13, 2024, at 6 p.m. Attendance is free, but registration is compulsory. Start your 2024 on the right path. In a world that's changing faster than ever, each day brings new challenges, innovations, and global transformations. As we grapple with the exponential pace of change, the gap widens between what's happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict the future, it builds it, one innovative solution at a time. Ready to be part of something bigger? Ready to shape the future instead of just reacting to it? It starts with our free webinar on Strategic Foresighting, hosted by Shui Agbida, the Leadership Growth Enabler and Learning and Development Specialist. Join us on Saturday, January 13, 2024, at 6 p.m. Attendance is free, but registration is compulsory. Start your 2024 on the right path. In a world that's changing faster than ever, each day brings new challenges, innovations, and global transformations. As we grapple with the exponential pace of change, the gap widens between what's happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on what part of the world it is that you are joining me from today. In case you're meeting me for the very first time, my name is Sheya Bede. I am the Leadership Growth Enabler and the Learning and Development Specialist. I help individuals and organizations to discover clarity and become the very best versions of themselves through coaching and training interventions. And this is one of the many interventions by which we make that happen. Our goal is ultimately to make our world a much better place to live in one mind at a time. You're welcome to this webinar. This is the webinar series, and it's titled, it's a webinar series on we're reviewing a book. It's titled Strategic Foresighting, but we are actually reviewing a book. We're looking at the leadership lessons from a book called Who Moved My Cheese? Now, it's a very fantastic book, just in case you're seeing this for the first time and you have never heard of the book before. It's an amazing book. It's a short read. It's a book you can complete in an hour or less. Depends on how much time you can devote to that. So I'll recommend that you read it, right? But just because I understand that not everybody would have read the book, as usual, so I'm going to, play a short video that kind of narrates what the story, what the book is all about, so you can have some context towards what it is that we will be talking about today. So this is day 3 of the series. We've had day 1 and 2 already. In case you want to have access to those, you can actually get those. We're actually streaming right now on 3 platforms. We are live on Facebook, we are live on LinkedIn, and then we are also live on YouTube. So you can access them on any of those platforms, right? And we would like to, if you're joining us live, let us know where it is that you're joining us from. If you have any learning moment from there, I believe in collective wisdom. We can all learn and share from each other. So please drop your messages, your comments, or whatever it is. Drop them in the chat, whatever platform it is that you're joining us from, and let us, have fun learning together. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and play the video now. While I'm doing that, if there's anybody you feel that should be a part of this, we should all learn together, please pull them in. Let us all listen to this together. Now, this is towards, we're preparing for a webinar, Strategic Foresighting webinar that is holding on the 13th of January, which is very, very essential. It's critical for us to be able to foresight into 2024 and beyond. It is very, very important in leadership. And when I keep talking about leadership is not just when you have a positional leadership. There are different types of leadership, right? Positional leadership is just one type of leadership. But in this case, you even have self-leadership. So you can lead yourself. So if you're leading an organization or you're leading yourself, this is important for you. You need to strategically look at the future, 2024 and beyond, and know how to position yourself for it. And there's a difference between strategic planning and operational planning, right? A lot of people do operational planning and everything. The operational planning talks about day-to-day activities and all of that, but strategic planning looks at the future, ensuring that you consistently give value in the nearest future and going beyond. So that's what it is that we're looking at, why that is relevant. Now, that webinar is taking place on the 13th of January. If you joined earlier, you should have seen some of the ads of the webinar running earlier. It's a free webinar. All you have to do is register to be a part of that. Yes, it's the first major event that we're having this year, so we decided to give it out for free. Everybody can be a part of that, but you need to register to be a part of the webinar. because it's going to be a closed room. We're going to have a lot of interactions and all of that back and forth. So it's not going to be holding on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as it is now, because we don't have that level of interaction there. So for you to be a part of that, you need to register for that. So if you haven't registered for that already, you can either scan the QR. Let me quickly show that to you. You can either quickly scan the QR or send me a DM, and I would send you the links to be able to register. I could just check all my socials everywhere around to be able to register for that. Okay, so with that being said, I'm just going to go ahead to play the video now, and I will see you right after the video. Bye bye for now.
Who Moved My Cheese is about dealing with change in your work and in your life. Cheese being a metaphor for what you want in life. Everyone has their own idea what cheese means to them, and we go after it because it makes us happy. The maze in the story represents where you look for your cheese, or happiness. Your cheese is always changing, and you should not get comfortable in relying on your cheese to always be how or where you left it. In doing so will help you deal with change and bring you greater success, no matter how you define success for yourself. The 4 characters in the story represent parts of us, and it's up to you to identify which parts you are now and which you would rather be from now on. There's 2 mice who don't overthink everything and just get on with life. Sniff constantly sniffs out the change and is ready for it. Scurry goes into action immediately without needing to know all the information. Then there's 2 little people, really smart people who've done well for themselves so far. Hem, he likes to stay in a safe, familiar territory, and Haw, who's slow to adapt to change but is open-minded. Sniff and Scurry go out and seek new cheese every day. Hem and Haw comfortably rely on their past knowledge and experience and assure themselves the cheese will be right where they left it. Hem and Haw even moved their house closer to their cheese and built a social life around it. They became so comfortable they didn't even notice what was happening. Sniff and Scurry noticed the cheese was diminishing and that one day it wasn't there. But they were not surprised. They were prepared and knew what to do. The situation had changed, so they decided to change. They sniffed and scurried in search of new cheese. Hem and Haw had not been paying attention to the changes. They took it for granted and were unprepared. How could this have happened, they thought? Nobody warned them. They wanted to believe somebody moved their cheese and didn't want to believe that they had failed to notice it getting smaller and smaller every day. Hem's complicated brain and deep belief system demanded to know why this had been done to him. While Hem and Haw were busy worrying about what happened to them, Sniff and Scurry were already out finding new cheese in uncharted territory, and it didn't take long before they found new cheese and started enjoying life again. Hem and Haw remained bitter and angry about not having their old cheese, complaining how life was unfair to them. They got used to being comfortable and were now afraid to go find new cheese. They got stuck in a habit of doing the same things over and over again and wondering why things didn't get better. Eventually, Haw realized the cheese was never coming back and may have to face his fears and go find new cheese. He finally stopped blaming others and took responsibility for himself. After all, it is safer to search in the maze than remain in a cheeseless situation. As Haw enjoyed his newfound cheese, he reflected on past mistakes and realized nothing got better until he changed. He didn't like it at the time, but the change was a blessing in disguise. Hem was too stubborn, or proud, or just simply unwilling to change. Nobody knows what became of Hem. Move with the cheese.
Okay, so I'm backing out. So that's the video that kind of summarizes what it is that the whole book is about. So there are 4 characters there, Scurry, and anyway, the 4 characters and all of that. I've been talking about this for a couple of days already, so I won't waste time over that again. Now, in our last session, right, we explored the proactive mindset of anticipating change before it occurs. It is important to anticipate that anything could happen. You know, like was said in the video, your cheese is whatever it is that you want in life. Your cheese could be the safety you get from your job. Your cheese could be the freedom that you have to travel all around the world and all of that. Now, you should understand and anticipate. So that was what we looked at yesterday. You should be able to anticipate that cheese could change at any time. And I gave examples yesterday. At some point, nobody ever thought about the pandemic that was going to happen in 2020, but it did happen. Okay, so even as you are, you need to think about it. That job that you're onto right now, something can change. It may not be a pandemic. It may be that the company itself folds up. Something can happen tomorrow and sweep them off their feet, right? I talked about how some technologies disrupted the landscape. Look at the Ubers. Okay, Uber came in and just swept taxi guys off their feet. Everybody had to switch over to Ubers, otherwise they'll be out of business. So you need to anticipate that something can change. If you feel that everything is going to remain like this forever, then you are wrong. That's the mistake Hem and Haw made, right? They just assumed everything was going to remain the same, and in fact, they moved their home closer to where the cheese was because they had felt so much at home. So lesson number 3. What are we moving on today? So today we're going to extend the mindset and by understanding the significance of vigilantly monitoring change. So for today, the lesson 3 is vigilantly monitor change. You need to monitor change vigilantly. So what does this mean? It means the proactive and continuous observation of changes in the environment. 2 keywords there: proactive, not reactive. Proactive. You need to be at the forefront, continuously at the forefront. And then the second word there is continuous. So it's not something you do once in a while. So yes, we're going to be doing strategic foresighting in the next couple of weeks, about 2 weeks there about. That's fine. But it's not something you just do once and that's the end. You leave it and you move on. No. It has to be done continuously. So you need to be proactive and then you need to continuously do it. So vigilantly monitoring is the proactive and continuous observations of changes in your environment. What are the feelers that things are changing in your environment? It could be the way of doing things. It could be the mode of operation. It could be how your customers want to be served. Things are changing. You need to vigilantly monitor that by being proactive and continuously observing that. That's what it means for us to monitor vigilantly. Now, being aware and responsive to shifts in our environment is crucial for effective leadership. It is vital for effective leadership, and I've talked to you about how leadership here concerns everybody, right? Monitoring change is not just about passive observation. Okay, not just about, I'm observing what is happening in my environment. I observe my work. I observe, when I'm going to work. I observe what's going on. It's not just about passive observation, but active engagement with our surroundings. Active engagement. So it's not just about observing, but you need to engage. When you notice that you observe that the color of something is changing, from to walk on the Monday morning and you notice that there's a particular building that used to have a lot of people there, but all of a sudden the numbers of cars parked at the building has reduced. You need to observe, not just observe, but engage. What is going on? Why aren't these cars parking here anymore? You need to observe that when a new technology comes into town and people are beginning to rush to it, you don't just observe, you engage. What is going on? So monitoring change is not just about passive observation, but about active engagement with your surroundings. Okay, so now, like I said, every day I usually take a quote from the book that kind of, tells us, gives us like a better idea of what it is that we're talking about today. So today's quote is, "The fear you let build up in your mind is worse than the situation that actually exists." Reminds me of another quote that says, "Nothing is as difficult as it first appears to be." Okay, so a lot of us are scared of changes because you have built up something in your mind that makes you feel, change is, I went through that as well. Okay, for many years I lived in Lagos, Nigeria all my life, and My wife always wanted to relocate to do some things in other places and all of that. But I never wanted to. And to be honest, one of the things was I didn't want change. I was very comfortable with what I was doing. I was comfortable with my cheese at that time. I didn't want to step out of my comfort zone, which is what a lot of people are struggling with. So, but it's just a fear in your mind. I had to conquer that. I still told some of my stories, how when I relocated here to Ireland, how I had to literally start my life all over again. But in a couple of months, I was able to do that. So imagine if I didn't let that fear go and face my fears, I probably would still be back there, thinking, and who knows, maybe that cheese would have been gone by now. Like I said, anything could have happened. So the fear you let build up in your mind is worse than the situation that actually exists. So that's the quote for today. Now, let's take an example of a real life company that actually does this very well. And one example is Netflix, vigilantly monitoring change, right? Now, they constantly monitor the viewers' preferences. They observe what the viewers want, and then they adapt their strategy, their content strategy to it. When you go to Netflix today, you go to watch something, automatically the next time you jump on Netflix, you see that they have recommended something similar to what it is that you just watched. They are observing their customers and they are adapting everything they are doing to suit their customers. So that's an example of vigilantly monitoring change. And they're not just monitoring their own customers, they're also monitoring their competitors. And I'll talk about that very shortly as well. So they are monitoring their environment, their internal customers, their external customers, and their competitions. They are monitoring all of these things. So that's a practical example of a company that monitors external environment vigilantly. Now, so what I'm just going to talk about is how to actively monitor changes in our environment. Okay, how do you get to monitor changes in our environment? I'll talk to you about 3 things. Now, these things are inexhaustible, right? But I'll just talk about 3 things that you can do. Number 1, data analytics integration. See, gone are the days where data is just for those people that like the numbers. Everybody needs to be involved in data analytics now. We're in the big data era. Everything is about the data. About 2 weeks ago, I had a guest on one of our webinars, and she talked to us about data and all of that. If you want to look up that, it's still available. It's all on our socials as well, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can actually access those there. But data analytics is now something that everybody, regardless of the area it is that you are in food production business, you're in retail, you're in coaching and training like what I do, you're whatever it is, you need data and you need to make good use of data. All right. Now, invest in data analytics tools to monitor market trends and consumer behavior. Now, if it is something that you are not strong at, what you can do is get people that are strong at this to help you do this periodically. Okay, you may not be able to make sense of the data because, like we said in the last collab that I was talking about 2 weeks ago when we had that data, every data has a story. You may not know the story, so what you can do is find out from those that can tell the stories. Find out from those that can make stories out of the data for you. Someone like myself, my first degree was in statistics, so I work a lot with data, right? I try to tell stories from data. So invest in data analytics tools or people, individuals that can help you monitor the trends and consumer behavior. So that's the first thing you need to do. You also need to train your teams to interpret data. Data is useless if it is not used. So data should inform your practices. It should inform your decisions. It's not just about having a shelf of data and just hanging there. It needs to be used. Data is not passive. It is active. It should be used. So you need to train your teams on how to interpret and derive actionable insights from this data. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk to you about. The second thing you need to do to be able to monitor change in your environment is customer feedback. customer feedback loops. It is important. Establish continuous feedback loops with your customers. Understand what they want. Understand how the market is changing. Understand how the preferences are changing. Take, for example, retailers, right? Nowadays, the customer preference has shifted from in-person shopping to online shopping, to click and collect. So you need to constantly adapt to that situation. That's very, very key. And then also actively listening to your customer suggestions and concerns to identify areas of development. So those are things that you need to do. Now, next thing is competitor analysis. I talked about this earlier as well. You not only observe your internal and external customers, you also get to observe your competitors. But a couple of days ago, I talked about SWOT analysis, right? Where you're looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and your threats. Your strengths and weaknesses are internal. You have control over those. But your opportunities and threats are external. You don't have any control over those, but you can adapt to those. Now, how can you adapt to something you're not aware of? Your competitors are some of the threats that are out there. Or maybe opportunities. It could actually be opportunities. Your competitors could be opportunities. Because I believe in cooperation and not competition. We can actually collaborate together. So you need to have competitor analysis. Regularly analyze the competitor strategies and market positioning. Everybody wants to have a larger market positioning, right? How do you get to increase your market share? That's the important thing. Identify the potential threats and opportunities based on your competitors' actions. What are they doing that could draw you out of the market? Remember, Nokia CEO said it at the final speech when Microsoft bought over Nokia, and he said, "We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost." They didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't their fault, but what happened was something changed on the outside, on the external part. It was not their fault. It wasn't something internal. It was something that changed externally, but because they didn't strategically position themselves for the external change, they were affected and they were run out of business. They were bought over for, was it about $11 billion? A company that was worth over $50 billion at one point in time. So that's why it is important to observe and monitor your environment. So these are the keys for today. Now, as usual, these are not very, very long webinar series. They're actually short ones because they're just to help us to prepare for the session that we'll be having on the 13th of January. Like I said, if you haven't registered for that already, this is what I'm actually talking about. It's called Strategic Foresighting, a powerful and systematic approach that eliminates the path forward. You need to be a part of that. You can scan the QR right now if you're seeing that, or you can check around. The link should be somewhere around, or just to send me a DM and I will send that to you. And share the links to as many people as possible. Let us work on this together. Now, who is this for? This is for individuals. It's for if you're a leader in an organization, you're an entrepreneur, you're a C-suite executive, because you need to strategically position your business for 2024. We are living in very, very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times, right? A vocal time. So you need to position yourself effectively for that. So that is the webinar for today. Tomorrow we will be going into day 4. We'll take another lesson tomorrow. Okay. And like I said, we'll keep building this up until the 12th of January before we have the webinar on the 13th of January. You don't want to miss any of this. As usual, I'll be here from 7 p.m. my time. If you're in West Africa, that's going to be about 8 p.m. your time. If you are in South Africa, that should be about 9 p.m. your time. If you're in the UAE, that should be about 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. your time. I'm not quite sure. I think 10 p.m. your time. If you're in the United States, it should be about 1 p.m. your time and all of that. Just know what time it is at your time zone and join in tomorrow. Okay, so that has been it from me today. Remember, there's greatness on your inside, and the world is waiting for you to birth and manifest your greatness. Go out there and be profitable, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
In a world that's changing faster than ever, each day brings new challenges, innovations, and global transformations. As we grapple with the exponential pace of change, the gap widens between what's happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict the future, it builds it, one innovative solution at a time. Ready to be part of something bigger? Ready to shape the future instead of just reacting to it? It starts with our free webinar on Strategic Foresighting, hosted by Shui Agbida, the Leadership Growth Enabler and Learning and Development Specialist. Join us on Saturday, January 13, 2024, at 6 p.m. Attendance is free, but registration is compulsory. Start your 2024 on the right path. In a world that's changing faster than ever, each day brings new challenges, innovations, and global transformations. As we grapple with the exponential pace of change, the gap widens between what's happening, what's to come, and what we can do about it. But what if I told you there's a way to bridge that gap? A way for you to not just keep up but to thrive in this complex and dynamic landscape. Imagine a total mind shift, a breakthrough that not only connects the dots between future events but also taps into our collective humanity. It's a system view that doesn't just predict the future, it builds it, one innovative solution at a time. Ready to be part of something